Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown, pitching ace Casey Herzog joins us to discuss her stellar start to the softball season. Plus, MAC Lacrosse Rookie of the Week Jake Tomsick is also in the house. And of course, our analysts debate the hottest topics in spring sports. Bobcat Breakdown starts now. Good evening and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Sam Bosquet, joined by Chris Stacy and Ryan Chichester. Guys, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How about you, Ryan?
I'm doing well. Happy I'm the most handsome man on the desk tonight.
Oh.
All right, let's start on the softball field. The Bobcats split two doubleheaders this weekend against Wagner and UMass Lowell. Star pitcher Casey Herzog threw a complete game on Sunday, giving up just one run. This is a team that struggles with the bats and is only 10-16 this season. Guys, where would this team be without Herzog?
Ryan, you go ahead.
Well, it wouldn't be very pretty, and it's not something I think I want to imagine. Casey Herzog has been unbelievable this season, a 1.42 ERA, and you look at the other two pitchers on this team that have contributed mainly has been Abby Long and Kendall Brundrett. Their opponents are batting .383 against those two pitchers compared to .233 against Herzog, so there would be balls flying all over the field if Herzog wasn't on this team, and it just would not be a pretty sight.
Pretty much said everything I was about to say as well. And one thing that stood out to me about Herzog is what her coach said about her after the game when she was talking to Mike Dalton. Is, I wish I had 9 Casey Herzogs on this team because she puts her team on the back. She has that capability, and she also leads. She's 4th on the team in average too. She's getting it done on the mound, but she's also getting it done in the batter's box, which is very impressive.
And one thing about teams that carry players that carry teams on their backs is they start to wear down after a while. So she needs to get some help pretty soon, or else the conference schedule might not fare very well for the Bobcats.
Exactly.
Now let's hear from Herzog herself. Softball beat reporter Brian Schwartz is live in the piazza with the righty. Brian, what's going on?
Hey, thanks guys. I'm joined by Casey Herzog of the Quinnipiac University softball team. Casey, 6 wins in a row for you in the circle. What's been the biggest key to that success?
I think just being confident and knowing that my team's behind me and knowing that if I just do my job in the circle that they'll get it done on offense and helping them on that too. So just working together and just keeping my groove going.
You had a few bases loaded jams that you were into this last weekend, 2 strikeouts to get the team out of it. What's the mindset when you're in a spot like that?
I try to not think about the people around me, and I just think like I'm just throwing a bullpen normal to my catcher, and so just me and Taylor out there throwing, and then just sticking to what I know and trying to get the strikes.
With that, your coach said she wishes she could have 9 Caseys on the field. What does that mean to you? Is that an extra confidence boost? Does that trust give you extra confidence?
It definitely makes me like feel good about knowing that she has the trust behind me, but I think that she feels that with a lot of our players, and knowing that I know I have the belief in all the rest of my teammates to be out there. So
now you got your 400th career strikeout over this weekend. Does that mean something to you? Is that something where you're going to look back later and be like, wow, I was a part of the Quinnipiac record books?
I didn't know I was even close to it, so in the moment I didn't really think about it, but I think years down the line it will be something cool to look back at, but right now it just means that's another strikeout, another day to play. Finally this weekend against Ryder, what are you looking forward to in this MAC season as it gets started? MAC season always has like a different feel. It's always more intense, everyone's ready to go, a little bit more amped up. So it's always a great season to go out there and just finish out my senior year with MAC play. So what's that confidence level in MAC play this year? Oh, we're definitely going to go. Yeah, we're going to go far.
All right, Casey, thanks for joining me. Send it back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Brian. Quinnipiac's other starter, Abby Long, is 0-7 this season with an ERA over 10. She was really great last year. So Ryan, how important is it for her to start contributing to this team?
It's hugely important. She's going to be the X factor of this team because Herzog can't throw every game, and it's not just that the fact of the ERA, it's the walks. 30 walks in 31 1/3 innings pitched. She walked 4 straight on Saturday before getting taken out in the early innings. That's a huge concern. She has to find the strike zone sooner. They're in big trouble.
You mentioned it before. You said that one person cannot carry the team on her back for the entire season, and that right now that's Casey Herzog, and she's going to need that number 2 pitcher. Abby Long, she did great last year, and that's why they were successful down the road in MAC play. But as of right now, they're not getting that production from the number 2 pitcher in Abby Long.
And she doesn't even need to be overpowering. Just get it over the plate, let them put the ball in play, and trust your defense. It's just these free passes and walking with the bases loaded and a bunch of hit by pitches on Saturday as well. That's what has to stop, or else it's every other game when Herzog isn't pitching, it's going to be a nightmare.
If it's going to be Herzog pitching every day, it can't be, because she's going to get fatigued. Obviously, we said Long needs to step up if this team wants to make the MAC playoffs.
Let's talk about the bats now, guys. Quinnipiac has struggled over the years offensively, but Aaron Larson has really stepped up this year, hitting just under 400 as of right now. Chris, aside from her, who else needs to start hitting for this team to win games?
I look at Rebecca Drake. Last year, she led the team in average, batting .407. This year, not so much, just .226 from behind in the batter's box. Listen, that's a huge drop-off. She hasn't been playing. She played every game last year. She hasn't played every game this year, so there might be some factor to that. But that being said, if you're going to put up those numbers last year as a sophomore, your junior campaign's got to be, if that, or better. She might have hit a wall a little bit. Like that 407 is a very good average, but still, if you're going to put up those numbers, I'm expecting a little bit more.
But like you said, she's also banged up. She hasn't played every game. I'm looking at these healthy players that have been contributing every day, like a senior in Kiala Cordero, batting just .210 on the season. She hasn't recorded a multi-hit game in 17 games, and she was struggling over the weekend, this weekend that just passed. So when you have an experienced upperclassman senior like Cordero who's playing every day, you need production from that corner infield spot. So I get that Drake hasn't been on the field every day, but she can't really help it. She's banged up. You have a healthy Cordero who needs to start pitching in so the Bobcats can score some runs.
Maybe it's the weather. It's been really cold here in Connecticut.
It has been, but today was pretty nice.
It was very nice.
Moving from softball to lacrosse, the Bobcats dropped their MAC opener against Saturday against Monmouth 14-8. Quinnipiac is having some goalie issues. Kyle Larkin and Allie Kelsey have been sharing time in net. Chris, who do you think should be the starting goalie and why?
Kyle Larkin, no question. How are you not going to go with the senior who led you to their first ever playoff game last year? I think this is a no-brainer. Obviously, they've shared time. They have only played one MAC game, and I go with the senior who's played in those MAC games, played in those tough games, played in a playoff game, has the experience. I think it's a no-brainer. You have to go with Kyle Larkin.
And not just played in more games, has the better save percentage, the better goals against average, has the experience factor. So, I get that it's been a little inconsistent so far to start. They dropped the conference opener, but still, she led you to your first ever conference tournament berth. Like you said, this is an absolute no-brainer. I wish I could twist it a little bit so we can argue about it, but honestly, there's really no other way to put it. Kyle Larkin's your starter.
The reason the Bobcats have been able to win some games is because of Ashley Bobinski. The sophomore has 20 goals and 13 assists through 9 games so far this year. Ryan, what makes Bobinski so unstoppable?
Well, I would probably say that it's because she has her own personal decoy. Her twin sister Victoria Bobinski's on the field, so they don't know which one they need to guard. And now Bobinski has 20 goals. She's incredibly efficient. Those 20 goals are on just 30 shots. So when she puts it towards the net, it's usually going to go in. She comes from an elite background with the Steps Elite program in New Jersey. That's a nationally ranked club team. So she's played with the best, and it's showing in her goals. And it, like I said, it helps when there's another person on the field who looks exactly like you, and the defense just has no idea who they're going to guard.
You mentioned she comes from New Jersey. You actually played for Kinlaw in high school, a team that I played in high school. Very great lacrosse talent
They
right
must
there.
have been
Produces
very good.
a lot of talent, and obviously she's played on the Steps program, like I said. It's just another thing I look at is her shooting percentage. She doesn't have the most shots on the team. She's very accurate with her shots. That's something that stands out to me. She's hitting 67% of her shots. 90% of her shots are on goal. It's very impressive for a player in both men's or women's lacrosse. To get your shots on goal, it's huge. So that's the one thing that stands out to me, and I guess the personal decoy with her twin doesn't hurt either.
She's the MVP of the team.
Great stuff, guys. It's time for a quick break, but when we return, men's lacrosse attack Jake Tomsick joins us. Plus, the guys will tell you why the baseball team has to sweep St. Peter's this weekend. We'll be right back.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
This is Sports Pause.
Are you concerned with the 0-2 start for this team?
Right here, top of the circle, again, rips it past the grassroots goalie.
What will breaking the record mean for the program himself? I mean, 138 wins.
There's the tough shot. What a nice play by Mikey Dixon.
He's good in transition. Just a really dynamic scorer he can create for himself.
And now, Emma, it's time for the top 5 plays of the week.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Welcome back inside Bobcat Breakdown. We're joined by men's lacrosse freshman Jake Tomsick. Jake, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
I know you guys have lost 2 in a row, but it was close against Holy Cross. You had 2 goals. Take us through both of them. What did you see and how did you find the back of the net?
Well, it's pretty simple, honestly. My teammates are giving me looks. That's all my success coming from my teammates. My first goal, I got it out front, went by one guy, and that's that. Put it in. The second goal was right at the, we're down by 1 or 2, and Sam Witt, another freshman, standout player, made a great play, passed to me, shot score. It's that easy.
So Jake, you're a 2-time conference rookie of the week already, and we just getting ready to start conference play. What's been the key to your early season success?
My teammates, for sure. That's the easiest way to put it. That's definitely the most obvious reason.
Jake, looking forward a little bit, you're going into MAC play. You beat Siena in a close one. Now you're going to Detroit Mercy. You start MAC play, and that's the rest of the season you got MAC play. What is the expectations around this team going forward?
Well, we want to win every one. We want to win the MAC tournament and get an automatic bid for the NCAAs, and that's that. The Siena game, it's a high tempo. The MAC games are awesome. I like it a lot, so it should be fun going forward.
What are you most looking forward to in MAC play?
The hype, the intensity, the big hits. That's what it's all about.
Jake, thanks a lot. Good luck with the rest of your season.
Thanks, guys.
Even though the men's ice hockey team is over, it doesn't mean the Bobcats aren't making headlines. 3 of Quinnipiac's players are already on new teams. Our own Jonathan Banks shows us who on a new edition of Banks' Briefing.
The sun is shining and it sure looks like spring on the beautiful quad behind me. But winter sports are never really over. The season might be over for the Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team, but for 3 seniors, their second seasons have just gotten started. Tanner McMaster, Kevin McKernan, and Bo Pieper all signed professional contracts with 3 different organizations. Tanner McMaster was signed first as he inked a deal with the Utica Comets of the AHL, the highest affiliate of Vancouver Canucks. McMaster joins former QU goalie Michael Garteg on the same roster. The Bobcats' second leading scorer this year has caught fire early in his professional career, as he tallied his first goal in his second career AHL game. He added to his point total with a 2-assist night on March 23rd to give him 3 points in 5 games. The other 2 Bobcats that signed professional contracts have not tallied any professional points, but both are getting playing time at the ECHL level. Kevin McKernan is currently plying his trade in Fort Wayne, Indiana, as he laces up for the Comets. No, it's not the same Comets as Tanner McMaster. These Comets are a minor league team of the NHL's Arizona Coyotes. McKernan saw time at both defense and forward for Quinnipiac this season. An assistant captain for the team, McKernan tallied 9 points this season, with his last career point in the blue and gold coming on a goal in the first round of the ECAC hockey playoffs against Whitney Avenue rival Yale. The last senior to sign professionally that represented Rand Pecknold's team this season was forward Bo Pieper. Pieper agreed to terms on a contract with the Adirondack Thunder, the little brother of the NHL's New Jersey Devils. Pieper hit double digits in goals during his junior and senior years as a member of the Bobcats. This includes his 2-goal games this season against both St. Lawrence and Arizona State. He currently has 2 appearances under his belt at the professional level. Quinnipiac might have had a shorter playoff run than they originally anticipated coming into the year, as they are swept by Cornell University in the ECAC hockey quarterfinals in Ithaca, New York. But all 3 former Bobcats will most likely be enjoying a first postseason at the professional level. Both Comets players, McMaster and McKernan, have clinched spots, while Pieper's Thunder are 1 win away from the promised land. That's all I have for Banks' briefing. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Jonathan. So guys, out of the 3, who has the most potential to make noise at the professional level? Chris, we'll start with you.
Before I say my player, Bo Pieper actually signed with the Devils. Devils actually just won. They beat Carolina, big win. We're both Devils fans, so we're a little excited about that. We're very excited about that. But for me, it's Tanner McMaster. He signed with the Canucks affiliate. Same team as Garteg, and he's seen time in the pros, so I think he has a chance to make it to the pros. And the Canucks finished second to last in the West, so I'm seeing that. I think they're looking to go with some young talent, maybe. That's what I'm thinking.
And he probably is the most talented, but I'm going to go with Bo Pieper because you take a look at these 3 systems. The Canucks and the Coyotes could probably be in a better position than they are right now. Devils are more of an up-and-coming team. They've got a lot of youth and a lot of future promise, so maybe it's not always about talent, it's about what system you're put in, so maybe Bo Pieper can thrive in that system under the John Hines and the Devils.
A little biased there, maybe?
No, never.
Thanks, guys. It's time for our last break. Coming up, baseball has an important weekend against St. Peter's. The guys will tell you why. Plus, our final roars. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Bobcat Breakdown presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcats Sports Network.
We are your source for debate.
Did they make the playoffs last year, Tom Jenkins?
When it clicks, it clicks.
We dissect Quinnipiac athletics on a scale you've never seen before.
With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit.
Plus, we bring in the biggest names surrounding college sports.
We are live here at the Times Union Center with Jay Billis.
And of course, some comedy.
But you can only have so much arena food.
I think you're crazy.
Bobcat Breakdown.
Tuesdays at 9:30.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
Now that's a sandwich.
Welcome back. Now it's time to head over to the Diamond for some baseball. Different from our other topics, we're going to play a little over-under. Quinnipiac has 5 games this week. We'll set the over-under at 3.5 wins. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I lost to Rhode Island today. I'm still going to go with over. I think they get the 3 St. Peter's ones. They haven't won a game in a while. They didn't win any last year, and they haven't won any yet this year. I think they get the win against Dartmouth because they're also struggling a little bit this year, but I think it's over.
Yeah, well, they've lost 7 in a row, and just maybe they might be overlooking Dartmouth a little bit and they lose that game. So I'll go under, but I'll say it'll be right at 3 just because all you have to do is really show up to the park and bring some gear to beat St. Peter's. So Quinnipiac should win those 3 games, but I could see them overlooking Dartmouth a bit, and the defense has been a problem. Like maybe a couple booted ground balls and Dartmouth squeaks past them, and they'll take 3 out of 5, which is still good.
You guys talked a little bit about the St. Peter's series. Quinnipiac is obviously the favorite in that. The over-under for runs scored in this series is 22.5. Ryan, what do you think?
I'm going to go over. Bobcats haven't been the best hitting team. They're slugging under 400 as a team so far this season, but like they say, usually the best cure for a hitting slump is to face some bad pitching, and they're about to face some bad pitching when they go and play St. Peter's. The Peacocks are giving up a ton of runs this season, which has pretty much been status quo for them the past couple of years. So sometimes the best way to get a team going is to just face some pitching that isn't exactly the most quality in terms of talent, and they'll feast on that.
I'm gonna go under just because of the things you said at the beginning. That they haven't been hitting the ball very well, and I just don't think they're gonna. I still think they're gonna beat them. Like 22.5 runs is a lot. That's a lot of runs. I just don't think they're gonna reach that. But I do think they win. They do beat St. Peter's convincingly. Maybe not 22 runs though. I don't see that happening. What about you?
They haven't been hitting, but some of that has to do with the fact that they've been facing some decent pitching. UNCW is a really good team that they got swept by last week, and Stony Brook's another quality team. They're far and away better than St. Peter's.
Well, Sam, I think you've been around this team. What do you think?
I'm going to have to agree with you, Chris. I do not think that they're going to score more than 22.5 runs over this series. They really need to step up the morale of the team. If they're making errors, they're going to get in their own heads. They're not going to be mentally there at the plate. And there's a lot of offers in the lineup, and I don't see them breaking this.
All right, well, let's look at a team like St. Peter's, who gets blown out almost every other game. You take one blowout, let's say Quinnipiac explodes for 13 or 14 runs in one of those games. Now you just have to average 4 runs a game to get to that 22
Here's the thing.
run mark.
This is MAC play. You don't think St. Peter's like, oh, these guys are in a conference, we're going to step up a little bit.
St. Peter's has shown over a full season that they still don't win when MAC play starts.
They have faith. I mean, like, come on, you got to step up a little bit if there's a
They have faith? Was this the book of Eli?
I hope they would. I mean.
And the last one, guys. Quinnipiac has committed a bunch of errors lately. The over-under for errors against the Peacocks is 10.5. Chris, you can take this one.
Over. They've been doing it all year. We've been talking about it. I just don't. It's gonna be cold too. Like Jersey City ain't warm around this time of year. It should be though. Actually, I don't know why. The weather's weird, but I think there's just gonna be a lot of errors, unfortunately. That's not fun baseball to watch, but that's been the Quinnipiac Bobcats this year.
Yeah, 49 errors so far this season, and errors was a huge problem for them last season. But just because you said over, I'll go under, just because, again, this is St. Peter's. They're not going to be squaring the ball up a lot. There might not be as many hard-hit ground balls or line drives as we'd see against teams like UNCW and Stony Brook. St. Peter's is a team that strikes out a lot, so there might not be as many opportunities to make errors simply because there might not be as many balls put in play. So if you have soft contact and hitters that are prone to strikeouts, maybe you're right. Maybe the St. Peter's team will lull the Quinnipiac defense to sleep a little bit, and there will be the occasional error, but that's a lot of errors to expect over a 3-game series.
Let me ask you this question. Could there be 10.5 errors combined by both teams?
Oh, absolutely. But you're adding in a whole nother team, and one of those teams being a really bad one. So, yes, that is true, but I'm going under if it comes to just Quinnipiac. Again, this is the perfect opening series for them to start conference play. So get started against a bad team that is prone to losing, get started on the right foot, and hopefully it takes you higher than the 8th spot that they're predicted to finish when the season comes to an end.
By the way, fun fact, my grandfather went to St. Peter's and was St. Peter's College, and he said even back then that I'm pretty sure that the 4 years he was there, he said the baseball team might have won a combined 4 games. But obviously that was a while ago, so he doesn't really remember, but he just remembers the team being bad back then too, which is pretty impressive.
Really, Bobcat Breakdown has turned into the Peacocks roast, so I'll give him a break. Let's give him a break.
One more question for you guys before we wrap this up. Who do you think is the player to watch as the Bobcats enter MAC play?
That's a good question. I would go with Liam Scaffarello just because of. You want me to change mine? Would it help you?
Sure.
Okay. I'll go with Dylan Lutz. He's been off to a good start this season, taking over the middle infield spot from Matthew Batten, who was the team's hit leader. He graduated last season, but Lutz has been performing great. He had a multi-hit game a couple games ago against Stony Brook, and then he went hitless in those last 2 games. But still, he's a guy that can swing the bat. He plays decent defense at the shortstop position, but again, I think this could be a series for him to really improve that defense at shortstop, keep the bat going, and maybe can turn into a contributor near the top of the lineup come conference play.
I'm going to say Liam Scarfio, like you said. I'm sorry I made you change, but we all know what he's capable of. We've seen him hit it out of the park very convincingly, so I'm looking for him to get back on track against St. Peter's. I think it would be a perfect series for him. Sam, what do you think?
I'm going to have to go with Evan Volgamore. If you look at his progress, he is a sophomore now compared to what he was at freshman year. He batted just under 180 over the course of 17 or so games. Coming into this year, he's really stepped up. Over the last couple of weekends, they've played some more difficult teams, so he's gone 0 for 6 maybe in the last couple of weekends. But prior to that, he had been hitting over 400. His fielding is getting a lot better. He has been moved from the catcher's position to third base, where he's kind of finding a home for himself. So I think he's going to definitely make some waves coming into MAC play. The St. Peter's series is a 3-game set with a doubleheader on Saturday. All right, it's time for our final roars. Chris, you're up first.
Now that spring sports are in full swing, let's talk about them for a second. When you think of spring sports, you might think of baseball, softball, men's and women's lacrosse, the sports we talked about today. But those are not the only sports that Quinnipiac has to offer. Did you know the men's and women's tennis teams could arguably be some of the most dominant teams on campus and in the MAC? I mean, the women's team has never lost a MAC match, and the women's golf team has made the NCAA tournament for the past 2 seasons. Kind of familiar with the women's team, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is this school has great spring sports teams. Just because there aren't the biggest sports on campus doesn't mean they deserve the respect.
The always quirky Yogi Berra once said that he was never in a slump. He just wasn't hitting. Quinnipiac baseball sophomore Evan Volgamore can relate. After starting the season on a 12-game hitting streak, Volgamore has now gone hitless in 7 of his last 8 contests, dropping his batting average from 347 to 240. So what exactly has gone wrong? Well, looking at the stat sheet will only cause further confusion, as Volgamore has only recorded a strikeout in 1 game during this 8-game funk. Clearly, the contact is still there. Are the baseball gods so cruel as to plug every hole in the field to drive Volgamore to madness? The truth is, every player suffers through a slump at some point in their career. They never have a proper explanation and rarely have an end in sight. For Volgamore, the solution may be to just keep swinging away. Maybe he's not in a slump at all. He's just not hitting right now.
Even though the weather is starting to warm up, the baseball team has done anything but that. 7 straight losses by an average of around 7 runs. It's not just hitting or the pitching. The Bobcats seem to make errors at the worst possible times, allowing 2 errors or more per game during this losing streak. Just look at their 3rd game against Stony Brook. Quinnipiac lost 9-2, but only 4 of those runs were earned. Quinnipiac committed 6 errors, including 3 by second baseman Ian Osberg. It's hard enough to win on the road, but Quinnipiac has made it very hard on itself. In order for the Bobcats to get out of the slump, they need to tighten up their defense, or this losing streak could stretch into double digits.
So, my final roar, I did the research on it, and I don't know if did you know that the women's tennis team has not lost a MAC match since?
Yeah, I actually did know that. I stay up to date with all Quinnipiac sports here. We have a rugby team that's won 3 national championships in a row. We've got a women's team that never loses in conference play, a women's tennis team. So we've got some pretty bad women's teams.
The thing that surprises me is that people don't go to these tennis matches. It's literally right in the middle of campus, right in front of the rec center, instead of they'd rather walk to, or they would walk to all the way to Hogan Road for a lacrosse game. These tennis matches, and they're easily accessible, and it would be awesome to see a crowd there because they definitely deserve the respect. They've been absolutely dominant over the past 2 years. We had Kei Izaka last year who broke almost every record you can think of for the men's team. So it's pretty impressive what these teams have done.
Well, like you said, it's been kind of cold out, so we need some warmer weather, and then we'll start getting some people outside. I was at the softball game over the weekend, and I was about freezing. I was ready to leave.
Yeah,
Chichester,
what is your favorite part about the springtime?
My favorite part? What a nice question to ask. Baseball. Baseball brings everything, like James Earl Jones said in Field of Dreams, it brings out everything that could be good in America again. It's the warm weather, it's the relaxed springtime, and just, watching. People call baseball boring, but it's more relaxing.
Unfortunately, guys, that is all the time we have. Make sure to check out all of our content at Q30tv.com and follow us on Twitter at Q30sports and at QBSN. For Chris Stacey and Ryan Chichester, I'm Sam Bosquet. Have a great night.